We've talked about consoles vanishing, we've talked about Nintendo skipping out on console hardware, we've talked about Microsoft monopoly on operating systems benefiting Xbox. What about how the future of the console market may actually operate? Comment down below to discuss, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack and this is Feature Creep. I'm starting to see a number of my predictions come true, or at least look like that's the direction things are going. No Man's Sky turned out to be far less than amazing. The Nintendo NX looking like a handheld rather than a home console doesn't speak well about their core game future. And even Microsoft recently, through an interview with Engadget, Aaron Greenberg, the head of Xbox Games Marketing, has said that they think this is the last console generation too. So how does that actually look at the end of the day? Hopefully my predictions don't get too outlandish. Just to reiterate, when I say last console generation, a prediction coming from a Feature Creep video back in April of this year, by the way, I mean the last brand new, totally new system, architecture and all. Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One. These are entirely distinct entities, and while some may share certain levels of functionality, the differences are quite stark. The issue is this: PC gaming is experiencing very high growth. The Xbox One and PS4 both arrived at a time when mid-range PCs could perform at the same level, and without hardware upgrade, there's a widening gap between the capability of PCs and the capability of this generation consoles. This was true last generation too, but there appears to be more ire on the part of PC gamers this time around, and a much bigger push to slow down the flow of bad PC ports. Historically, games were built with the consoles as the primary target, but the estimates from the PC gaming market place it as equivalent to the entire console market combined. So how do you, as a hardware manufacturer, deal with that reality? Well, as is apparent by both Microsoft and Sony, you start to iterate on a shorter time frame. Project Scorpio, the Xbox 1.5 you could say, and Neo, the PS 4.5, are hardware upgrades to the existing console generation, similar enough to the existing console so that all of the current games will still play, but better graphical performance. Both Sony and Microsoft have in essence acknowledged that they need to try to keep up with PC power, at least to some degree. I'm going to break off here and talk quickly about Nintendo. All of the rumors surrounding the NX, including patent applications and industry leaks, point to the NX being hardly a home console at all. Rather, it looks far more like a tablet with peripherals and a home dock that can broadcast to your TV. As a result, it doesn't directly compete with core PC and console gaming at all. My previous claim that if the NX fails, Nintendo will most likely stop making hardware consoles may be coming true early, to the point where they only make mobile hardware and the home console market isn't their concern anymore. I hope they license their intellectual properties or port games themselves to other systems in the future, because I'm starting to wonder if the Wii was a fluke from a hardware system perspective. Back to Sony and Microsoft, they have a problem. Right now they've both acknowledged, as I mentioned, that they want to try to keep at least somewhat current for performance rather than trying to force the market to accept another decade-long console cycle. The problem is that in order to keep current, they have to do one of two things. Either they have to implement a version of the consoles that is modular, which gamers can upgrade themselves by way of plug-and-play hardware, similar to Razer's concept Project Christine modular PC with easily plugged-in upgrade slots, or they have to release standalone consoles more frequently. Now, clearly there's a huge issue with releasing modular upgrades for consoles. One of the main selling features of a console is not having to know anything about computers and how to build them. You buy the console, plug it in, and it works without any worrying about whether you have a good enough graphics card or CPU and so on. So there's next to no chance we'll see modular consoles, in my opinion. There's too many barriers for the crowd of people who have no interest in adding any build complexity to their gaming experience. More frequent hardware also has a problem though. A mid-range PC for gaming will easily run between $500 and $1,000. In fact, looking at the specs that we do have for Project Scorpio, even assuming a price drop on hardware between now and release, I don't think it's reasonable to assume normal console pricing. Microsoft has consistently pushed the message that it is a premium product, much like HTC and Valve did with the Vive, and look what happened there. So don't be surprised if Scorpio ends with a price tag well over $400. And in order to keep some level of parity, we'll likely be seeing this become a recurring scenario. The Xbox One and PS4 have been out since the end of 2013. Scorpio is slated for a holiday 2017 release, and Sony would be crazy not to have the Neo ready to go at the same time. But gamers who are used to spending $300 to $400 on a console and have it last for quite a few years are not going to be very happy to have to spend well in excess of that, which doesn't get you a very powerful machine anyways. And to do that every 4 years, or even more often, that's a tall order. There's one avenue, though, that isn't as often considered, so I'd like to propose that scenario to you, though don't mistake this for me claiming it's a good choice or something that I want to happen, just what I think is going to happen. It's actually something that Microsoft has experimented with before with the Xbox 360. Back in 2012, and for about a year and a half afterwards, Microsoft was selling Xbox 360s like you would a cell phone. Buy a 360 for $100 with a 2-year contract to pay off the balance. A short-lived experiment, and I wonder if it bore any fruit. The way to fix all of these problems that they both have is to turn the console market into a mirror of the cell phone market. That lets Microsoft and Sony both sell $800 premium consoles. Then they can sell them to you every 2, 3, or 4 years easily enough. All they have to do is price it at $200 or $300 up front and a 2-year contract. Consider the following hypothetical: Xbox Live Platinum, a $70 monthly payment on top of your upfront console purchase fee. Platinum includes all of the features of Gold, adds a few new features as well, and a monthly AAA game purchase included in the price that you get to pick yourself. So for the low price of a couple $100 up front and a monthly payment, you get a whole bunch of games over 2 years, maybe a few more than you would normally have picked out, but you get to have an awesome, powerful console every few years. Of course, it's entirely possible to do all of this without the whole Xbox Live Platinum shenanigans. Doing a base financing on the console market is easy enough without everything added, but it sure fits, doesn't it? I've argued in other videos that we're seeing the homogenization of the console market. Microsoft has merged Xbox and Windows together. Sony isn't quite there yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a Sony PlayStation PC client that runs PlayStation games natively at some point. PlayStation Now is already on PC, and we've heard rumblings about the PlayStation VR being usable on PC as well. The phone market is exactly the kind of structure that resolves most of these problems. A centralized operating system that upgrades but doesn't revolutionize every iteration. Hardware out on a regular basis such that the customers can skip an iteration and not be totally left behind, but is affordable based on a contract structure. Those contracts keep consistent revenue over a longer period of time. And, of course, a buy outright option for the whales. I think Phil Spencer said it best: beyond generations. Some of this is heavy musing on my part, but it is something that I actually see happening at some point soon. They could well come out with a crappy hardware upgrade for full price and expect everyone to follow suit, but that doesn't sound like the most clever option to me. What do you think about it? Let's chat in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel, preferably if you actually like the content and aren't an ass in the comments. Follow me at GnomeCast on Twitter. That's all I have to say. Tarmack out.